So we're learning Likkutei Sichot, Volume 1 for Parshas Tazria, and we're on page 221 in the Hebrew. Okay. Sorry, we're on 220. Okay, so we were talking yesterday about the difference between Tishrei and Nisan. We said that this was the difference between, we didn't say what it was. We'll start. Hezber HaDavar. So why is it, the question that we were dealing with, is that why is it that on Tishrei the world was created and the Geula wasn't also on Tishrei? Why did Hashem bring the redemption, the exodus from Egypt, on Nisan?
So they have nice weather to go through the desert.
It's nice weather in Tishrei also. They were supposed to go immediately into Eretz Yisrael. In fact, in Eretz Yisrael, it's much better to come in Tishrei than it is on Nisan, because it gets hotter and hotter. In any case, הסבר הדבר, ההבדל בין תשרי לבין ניסן הוא בכך שתשרי הוא חודש של מידת הגבורה. תשובה, העלאה מלמטה למעלה. So Tishrei is about might. Why do we call it might? Because might and tshuva, it's definitely the month of tshuva. Meaning, this is the same thing about birthdays. That when you're born, so people celebrate it. But really what you need to do after a whole year of being in the world is take an accounting. Take an accounting and do tshuva. And return to God.
Did you notice that when a baby is born, everybody's laughing and the baby's crying?
Yeah.
And when a person dies, everybody's crying. Maybe the guy's laughing.
Hopefully. So this is called ascent from below to above, because I'm taking all my baggage and I'm deciding that I want to elevate it. That's what it means to return to Hashem. ומאחר שהתעלות הנבראים בעבודתם, כל כמה שתהיה נעלה הדרגה אליה יגיעו היא בהגבלה. But because I'm ascending with my actions, I'm taking account, I'm taking stock of what I've done, there is only a limited elevation that I can attain. There's always a limit on it. That's why we say that on Tishrei, the divine providence that acts through nature is what rules.
Divine providence of nature. What is the divine providence?
God's providence, but only limited providence. Vilu Nisan, uchodesh midat chesed. But Nisan is a month of loving kindness. Why loving kindness? Because it's samshecha milamala lamata. This is a general principle in the Sfirot, right? That the right axis is from above to below, and the left axis is from below to above. The motion, the energy flow, you would say. On the right, it goes from above to below. Yeah. So this also relates to who's awakening. When Chesed, like we said before, the male is from above to below. So Chesed, the right side, is more masculine. And the female awakens from below to above, so that is the left side of the Sfirot. It's from below to above. And we've also said this in terms of a relationship between husband and wife. That the man's vector is always from above to below. The woman's vector is always from below to above. That's also why in relations, the way that the Torah likes it to be, you can do other things, but in general what the Torah thinks is nominal, is the best, is that the woman is below looking up and the man is above looking down. That's the natural state of affairs. That's how it sees it. And
how does this interrelate with mashpia and mushpa?
Same thing. That if you're the mashpia, you're looking from above to below. If you're the mushpa, you're looking from below to above. You're sending your sights, as a mushpa, you're sending your sights above. As a mashpia, as somebody who's influencing, you're sending your sights below. Because every person has to find someone who he's a mashpia for. Right, that's one of the, call it the relational, relativistic aspects of being man and woman. That in some respects, the male is a masculine. The masculine side is always the mishpia. It's always the one influencing. But women have this also because they have to influence their children. So much so that it's accepted. And the Rebbe made a big deal out of it. But it's not just the Rebbe. It was many, many great sages of the previous generation. That the woman is responsible for the chinuch at home. And so she has to know Torah. That was the whole theory behind Beis Yaakov. That was the whole theory behind creating schools for women, so that they could. There was another reason, which was with the problem with the men, but the lechatchila reason was that women had to influence their children, so that they were not learning as much. They couldn't even play that role at home because men were now going out to work. So there was a whole shift. The whole thing that men don't go to work is like an attempt to, in sociological terms, to turn the wheels of time back and to bring it back so that everybody is like free from work and is dedicated to home. But that's very hard to do if at all possible. Right? Okay, so the left and the right, they always represent the masculine and the feminine. The right is the masculine, the left is the feminine. The masculine is from above to below, and the feminine is from below to above. In the relationship between a man and a woman, so the way it looks is that the male is affecting from above to below, meaning he's called descent. He's descending, but he's descending in order to rise, in order to elevate. And the woman is ascending, but her ultimate purpose is to come back down to descend. Meaning, the male comes down to be a mashpia, but then he wants to take what he's learned below and elevate it. And the woman is the opposite. She wants to be mushpat so she can elevate, she can go higher, but then she wants to bring it back down to earth. And so each one has a back and forth, has a ratzov v'shov. Okay. So that's the difference. And so Nisan, because it's from above to below, Hamshacha milamala lemata, madriga na'alet min ha'olamot, and this is coming from outside of reality. Because the reality is what's being influenced. It's what's receiving the descent. לפיכך חל בניסן ראש השנה להנהגה ניסית שלמעלה מן הטבע. So, in the month of Nisan, we have divine providence that goes beyond nature. Right? So here in note 13, he writes, See Zohar, החודש הזה לכם כסדר דאתבון אביב. He says the month of Nisan is not called Nisan in the Torah, because in the Torah there weren't these names. These are Babylonian names. So this name, this month was called Aviv, the month of the, people translate it as spring. So what do you see there? That the letters are in their order, Aleph Beis. The first two letters are Aleph Beis. In Tishrei, the Zohar continues, Atvun, Ishtakhu b'chesed. So when it's in the right order, from above to below, from the first to the last, that's called chesed. That's called loving kindness as well. But in Tishrei, mishtakhu b'gvura. They're found to be in the opposite order. Sorry. They're found to be in the opposite order. Tav, Shin, Reish is the opposite, is the reverse order of the letters. So there you see that's gvura. That's going backwards, going in reverse order. That's like going from below to above. לפיכך אנו נוכחים לדעת כי בתשרי מתפללים לגשם וניסן לטל. That's why on Tishrei we bench rain, and on Nisan we bench dew. Right? In America it doesn't mean anything. In England it doesn't mean anything. In Eretz Yisrael it means something. Because in Eretz Yisrael it doesn't rain in the summer. So it also fits. ההבדל בין גשם לטל ידוע בכך שהגשם בא בהתערותא דלתתא. The difference is, what does it say about the rain? ואדם אין כי לא המטיר השם על הארץ. ואדם אין לעבוד את האדמה. ואדם אין לעבוד את האדמה, כי לא המטיר השם אלוקים על הארץ. So rain depends on an awakening from below. Rashi says there, because there was no man to pray for rain. Without prayer for rain, there's no rain. It's dependent on it. So המשכת המטר תלויה בעבודת הנבראים. Rain depends on an awakening from below. ועד יעלה מן הארץ, והטל בא בהתערות דלילה. And the dew, though, is a continual supernatural stream, as it were, from above. And people think that, we've talked about this, I think, in the past, that dew doesn't matter. What does dew have to do with anything? Why would you pray for dew? So, I gave you the numbers once. I hope I remember them correctly. In the Negev, there's 220 millimeters of dew every year. It's more, it's not more, it's about 2/3 of the amount of rain that there is every year. But the dew is all year long. And so there are crops, a lot of produce, especially the wheat, that depends on dew. It actually waters it. People think the dew is like, what does dew do? And so it's like nothing. But it's not true. In Eretz Yisrael, dew is a big deal. A lot of the agriculture, which we're trying to destroy, but that's a different problem. A lot of the agriculture is dependent on dew.
Who's trying to destroy?
The government. Why? It's a very good question. Short-sightedness is the first problem. The second problem is hatred of anything that has to do with Eretz Yisrael. But that's not by everyone. Short-sightedness is by all of them. The hatred of Eretz Yisrael is by some of them. And then there's the pros, as it were, which is competition. So they want there to be, you can import whatever you want from wherever you want in the world. And no tariffs, no taxes, no duties. So that there's good competition, so that the price goes down. That the farmers have shown a million times. I mean, you can't get any more clear than what they've shown. Is that the prices are high not because of what they charge. The prices are high because of the chains, the food chains there. So they have these supermarkets, and they're the biggest buyers, and so they decide the price that they're buying at. The farmers can't do anything about it. Almost, they have very little leverage against them. And then, on the shelving, they put whatever price they want. So they mark up by 200%. I go to a guy who buys directly from the shuk Sitonai, not the shuk in Machne, which is a bunch of baloney. The real place. I buy fruits and vegetables for a third of the price. And it's better quality, much better quality than you'll find in the supermarket. In the supermarket, the bananas never turn yellow. I get ripe bananas every day because I go to the right place. So this guy is willing to do that because you still make a lot of money. If you buy directly from the farmers, you're still making very nicely. They still mark it up by 50, 60%. But the supermarket chains, they claim, we have so many more expenses, and everybody wants to buy in supermarkets, and most of the people do. So to bring the prices down, they decided the ones that they're going to hurt are the farmers. So we'll make it possible for the supermarket chains to buy even cheaper, by another half shekel cheaper, from Turkey. And that's how they're killing agriculture in Israel, and they're very happy with it, apparently, especially Lieberman. Okay. וזה גם טעם לכך שמטר מיעצר, גשם עלול להיעצר, משום שהמשכת המטר תלויה בעבודת הנבראים, שנפחתת העבודה, נפחת הגשם. And this is the reason why rain can stop, because rain depends on our actions. It depends on our awakening. And when there's less service of God, so there's less rain. Ve'iluta lo mi'atzel. But dew never ends. Dew does not depend on our actions, because there's dew all year long. So if a person says v'ten tal, actually we say v'ten talu matal. In the winter we don't say just v'ten matal. We say v'ten talu matal. But okay. שכן מקורו בהמשכה מלמעלה. Why does it never end? Why is it not ceasing? Because it only depends on an awakening from above, and Hashem is infinite all the time. מדרגה אליה אין מגיע עבודת הנבראים. And this is the type of awakening that is not caused by the actions of the people below. ומשום כך בתשרי העלאה מתפעלים לגשם וניסן המשכה לטל. So, according to this, by the way, this is it's an interesting thing. What's the name of the sign, the zodiac sign of Nisan? Huh? You forget. You haven't done your astrological charts lately. Yeah, you can tell. It's Capricorn in English. What do you call it in Hebrew? So it's related to Pesach. Taleh. Right? What's a Taleh? Taleh is a kid It's a kid. They call it a Capricorn. I don't know why, because I guess in Latin that's what it means. But what letters does Taleh start with? Huh? No, Tet Lamed Hey. So what's Tet and Lamed? Tal. So even the zodiac sign of Nisan, it fits the Middle East. It doesn't fit like Europe. It doesn't work. So it's Tal. It's dew. Okay. B'ram, מדוע, still we have to ask, לפי המוסבר לעיל, בתשרי בטלה עבודה מאבותינו והייתה התחלת הגאולה בחודש תשרי. Why is it that it was 6 months earlier? They came out in Nisan. That was when the Exodus was, on the 15th of Nisan. But they didn't start seeing the effect of the redemption just on Nisan. They saw it 6 months earlier. Because in Tishrei of that year, they were freed from their hard labor. So they had 6 months without hard labor. So why was it not in Tishrei? Why didn't it all end in Tishrei? Or why didn't it start in Nisan the year before, a whole year before? הדבר יובן עם הסברת הדיוק שבביטוי משבחר הקדוש ברוך הוא בעולמו. To understand this, we have to see the meaning of the statement that we saw yesterday when God chose His world. When God chose His world, when was that? That was in Tishrei. But why is the language God chose? It should have been Mishebara Kadosh Baruch Hu et Olamo. It should be from when God created the world. Why are you saying from when God chose the world? So to choose is higher than to create. And this is a big theme by the Rebbe for all of the inyanim of Nisan, right? That the exodus from Egypt is going beyond nature. It's not a natural event. It's not another event in world history. It's a complete seismic shift in world history. It's something different. It's out of this world. But that also goes by the avos. What are the first two letters of Aviv, of the month of Nisan? Av. Why? Because we say, in a certain sense, that this is their month, the month of the avos. Sorry, but the avos we don't say that's only secondary. Really, what's the first month called? What is Tishrei called in the Torah? It also has a name. He's going to say it in a moment. I'm bringing it too early, maybe, but I want to make a point. It's called Yerach HaItanim. It's the name of Tishrei in the Torah. Before the Babylonian exile, when we picked up the Babylonian names, we converted them, so they're not Babylonian anymore. They don't sound like what they sounded like in Babylon. They've been changed. They've been converted. So Tishrei was called Yerach HaItanim, the month of the Eitanim. Who are these Eitanim? Eitanim is like a very strong, powerful people. So we say that it refers to the month of the forefathers, of the patriarchs, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Really? Yeah. He's going to say it in a moment in the Sichot also. Why is it called the Yerach HaItanim? Because they were very strong, but also Abraham is called Eitana Ezrachi. That's one of his names. In Tehillim, there's a chapter from Eitana Ezrachi. Eitana Ezrachi, say the sages, this is Abraham, mi Mizrach, who began to shine from the east, and then he moved to the west, to Eretz Yisrael. Why are we saying this? Because the Rebbe stresses this, that the bond, the iskashrus, between the avos and Hashem is different than the iskashrus between us and Hashem. How is it different? We sort of talked about this in the first, when we began this Sichot, that we don't do the mitzvah of circumcision because Avram received it. We do the mitzvah of circumcision because Hashem told us in Parshas Tazria, in our parsha, to do it. Why is that? Why can't we just... Because when we say the bracha, we say Lachniso bebrito shel Avraham Avinu. We say to bring him into the covenant of Avram, because the covenant was made with Avram, but the mitzvah is from Mount Sinai. Why this difference? So the Rebbe talks about this in many places, that the bond between the avos, between the patriarchs, and the Shem was natural. It was a natural bond. What does it mean, natural? Natural is exactly like here, that I awaken from below, and you awaken in return. It means that our bond is dependent on my actions. If Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov would not have worked so hard to develop their relationship with God, then there would be no relationship. God did not choose them. They chose Him. It's a big difference. Meaning they realized that God existed and they decided to serve God. And they dedicated themselves to the point where they became a chariot for the divine presence. But it was all their will, it was all their intent. If they would not have awakened from below, there would have been no awakening from above. It's very important. That means that it's a relationship that's dependent on them, on us, on what's below. So that's called an awakening from below. That's Tishrei. That's why they're related to the month of Tishrei, because they awaken from below, and then they call us God to awaken from above and to be with them, and to walk with them, to be with them, to walk after them even. We, on the other hand, when God came down on Mount Sinai, our relationship with Hashem is completely different. Hashem forced us into this relationship. What he means to say is, Kafalem halki gigit, that he forced us into it, means that it's not dependent on our actions. You can't escape. You're stuck now. Why? Because you said it from the beginning, Naseh v'nishma. Naseh v'nishma means that Hashem is the one who's awakening, not us. You'll tell us what to do. We'll do, and then we'll think about it, and then we'll awaken to think about it. So first I do what you say, and then I'll think about what you said. So our relationship is completely different. It's from a completely different place. The Rebbe makes this into a big deal because this has a lot of repercussions in many areas. One of the areas, for instance, is the Geula, is the redemption. The redemption from Egypt, because it was predicated on the bond of the patriarchs, which was an awakening from below, so there could be 4/5 of the people that didn't want to leave, and they didn't leave. Because if it's dependent on you, if the relationship is dependent on you, you can decide that you don't want it. But from the final redemption, he says, no Jew can escape. You can't refuse God. Why? Because it's already not up to you. It's up to Hashem. Meaning Hashem has instilled in us something that is predetermined to act in a certain way. Okay, so we'll have to continue tomorrow. So we finished. We're in chapter 10. We have to continue.